Most people believe discipline is something you either have or you do not. They think strong people wake up motivated, focused, and ready to work. But the truth is very different. Real discipline is built in the moments when you feel weak, the moments when you are tired, when you want to quit, when your mind tells you that stopping would be easier. Everyone feels those moments, even the most successful people in the world. The difference is not strength. The difference is what they do next. This audiobook is about those moments, the quiet battles that happen inside your mind when no one is watching. You will learn how discipline really works, not as motivation, not as inspiration, but as a system you can use even on your weakest days. If you want to keep learning and growing with audiobooks like this, subscribe to this channel now. New chapters and powerful lessons are released here regularly. Your journey toward real discipline begins now. Chapter 1. The truth about feeling weak. There are days when everything feels heavy. You wake up tired. Your mind feels slow. Even small tasks feel difficult. You tell yourself you should work. You know what needs to be done. But something inside you resists. You open your phone. You look for distraction. You promise yourself you will start later. Hours pass. Then guilt arrives. You feel disappointed in yourself. You begin to believe something is wrong with you. Many people think this feeling means they lack discipline. They believe disciplined people never feel this way. But that belief is wrong. Feeling weak is not a failure. It is a normal part of being human. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced these moments. Athletes feel them. Writers feel them. Leaders feel them. No one escapes this struggle. The real difference is not strength. It is understanding. Most people misunderstand weakness. They think weakness means they cannot act. In reality, weakness is simply a feeling. Feelings are powerful, but they are not commands. Your mind can feel tired while your body still moves. Your thoughts can resist while your actions continue. This is where discipline begins. Discipline is not the absence of weakness. It is the decision to act while weakness is present. This idea changes everything. You no longer wait to feel strong. You act even when strength is missing. Many people wait for motivation. They tell themselves they will begin when they feel ready. But motivation is unreliable. Some days motivation appears, other days it disappears. If your progress depends on motivation, your progress will stop often. Discipline works differently. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done. This does not mean you ignore your emotions completely. Your feelings still matter, but they do not control your direction. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably do it every day, not because you feel excited, not because you feel motivated. You do it because it is a habit. Habit removes the debate. Discipline works the same way. When action becomes routine, feelings lose their power. Another important truth about weakness is that it often appears before meaningful work. Your brain prefers comfort. It wants to save energy. Hard work requires effort. Effort feels uncomfortable, so your brain sends signals. It tells you to rest. It tells you to delay. This is not laziness. It is biology. Your brain is trying to protect energy. Understanding this removes shame. You are not broken. You are human. The challenge is learning how to move despite this natural resistance. One helpful step is recognizing the moment weakness appears. Notice the pattern. You sit down to work. Your mind begins to complain. It says you are tired. It says you should wait. These thoughts feel convincing, but they are predictable. Once you see the pattern, you gain power. Instead of believing the thoughts, you observe them. You think, this is the moment resistance appears. That awareness creates distance. Distance gives you choice. You can choose action. Action does not need to be dramatic. It can be small. Start the task for a few minutes. Open the document. Write a few lines. Begin slowly. Beginning is the hardest step. Once movement starts, energy follows. Your brain adjusts. Momentum replaces resistance. This is why disciplined people focus on starting. They do not worry about the entire journey. They focus on the first step. Another important idea is separating identity from feelings. If you feel weak, you might say, I am weak. But feelings change. You are not your temporary state. You are the person who chooses what to do next. When you separate identity from feelings, discipline becomes easier. You can feel tired and still act responsibly. You can feel unmotivated and still make progress. Your feelings no longer define you. Another challenge people face is expecting discipline to feel heroic. They imagine dramatic determination. In reality, discipline is quiet. It looks simple. Someone sits down and begins. They continue even when it feels dull. There is no dramatic music, no applause, just quiet persistence. Most progress in life looks like this: small actions repeated daily. This is not exciting, but it is powerful. Over time, these small actions build results. Results build confidence. Confidence strengthens discipline. Another misunderstanding about weakness is thinking it lasts forever. Weakness is temporary. Energy rises and falls. Motivation rises and falls. This is natural. Discipline provides stability during these changes. It becomes the steady force beneath emotional waves. Another useful strategy is lowering the barrier to action. When you feel weak, large goals feel impossible. Instead of focusing on finishing, focus on beginning. Tell yourself you will work briefly, just a few minutes. This removes pressure. Once you start, continuing often feels easier. Your brain stops resisting once motion begins. This simple trick helps many people break through resistance. Another powerful shift is changing how you speak to yourself. Self-talk matters. If your inner voice is harsh, discipline becomes harder. Harsh voices drain energy. Supportive voices build resilience. Instead of saying, "I am so lazy," try a different tone. Acknowledge the struggle, then move forward. Encouragement strengthens action. Another helpful idea is remembering your reason. Why does this task matter? What future does it support? Weakness often appears when purpose feels distant. Reconnect with purpose. Purpose creates meaning. Meaning fuels persistence. Another challenge is expecting perfection. Perfectionism stops progress. You think you must perform perfectly, so you delay starting. Discipline rejects perfection. It values consistency instead. Consistency beats perfection every time. Another useful perspective is focusing on effort rather than outcome. Outcomes feel far away. Effort happens now. When you focus on effort, progress becomes visible. You measure the action you took, not just the result you want. This keeps discipline alive. Another truth about weakness is that everyone hides it. You see other people's success. You rarely see their struggles. You assume they are stronger, but they face the same battles. The difference is practice. They have practiced acting despite weakness many times. Practice builds skill. Skill builds confidence. Confidence strengthens discipline. Another powerful idea is that discipline grows through repetition. You do not become disciplined once. You become disciplined through many small decisions. Each time you act despite weakness, the habit strengthens. Each time you avoid action, resistance grows. Your choices shape your future behavior. This should feel empowering. Every moment gives you influence. Another helpful strategy is creating structure. Structure reduces decision fatigue. When tasks have clear times and places, you spend less energy deciding. Less decision means less resistance. Your brain follows routine. Routine supports discipline. Another challenge people face is emotional fatigue. Life can feel overwhelming. Discipline does not require constant intensity. Sometimes discipline simply means showing up. Showing up is enough. Small effort still counts. Another important idea is patience. Discipline develops slowly. You will not feel strong every day. Some days will feel easy. Some days will feel heavy. Both days matter. Progress continues through both. Another helpful mindset is acceptance. Accept that weakness will appear. Expect it. When it arrives, do not panic. Treat it like weather. Weather changes, you continue walking. Another important truth is that discipline builds self-respect. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, trust grows. Self-trust is powerful. It changes how you see yourself. You begin to believe you can rely on your actions. This belief strengthens future discipline. Another challenge is distractions. Modern life offers endless distractions: phones, notifications, entertainment. Weakness becomes stronger when distractions are easy. Removing distractions protects discipline. Create environments that support focus. Environment shapes behavior. Another helpful idea is celebrating small wins. Each completed task matters. Recognition builds motivation. Motivation strengthens discipline. Another truth is that discipline does not eliminate weakness. Weakness still appears, but it loses power. You recognize it as a feeling, not a command. You act anyway. Over time, these moments build identity. You become someone who acts despite difficulty. This identity is the foundation of discipline. You no longer wait for strength. You create strength through action. And that is the real truth about feeling weak. Weakness is not the end of discipline. It is where discipline begins. Chapter 2. Why motivation always fails. Many people believe motivation is the key to discipline. They think if they feel inspired enough, they will take action. They wait for a strong feeling that pushes them forward. For a short time, motivation works. You watch a powerful video, you read something inspiring, you feel energized. You promise yourself that everything will change. You will wake up early. You will work harder. You will become focused and productive. For a few days it might happen. You start strong. You feel proud of yourself. Then something changes. The excitement fades. Your energy drops. Your routine becomes difficult again. You begin to miss days. You delay tasks. Soon you feel like you are back where you started. This cycle frustrates many people. They think they lack discipline, but the real problem is different. They are relying on motivation. Motivation feels powerful because it creates emotional energy. It gives you a temporary push. But motivation is unstable. It changes with mood. It changes with sleep. It changes with stress. Some days motivation appears easily. Other days it disappears completely. If your progress depends on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. This is why disciplined people think differently. They do not wait to feel motivated. They build systems that work even when motivation is gone. Understanding this difference is important. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is behavioral. Motivation depends on how you feel. Discipline depends on what you do. Feelings change constantly. Actions can remain steady. Think about people who exercise regularly. Some days they feel excited to train. Other days they feel tired, but they still go. They go because training is part of their routine. Routine removes negotiation. When something becomes routine, your brain stops debating. You simply begin. This is one of the biggest secrets of discipline. Reduce the debate. Every time you delay action, your mind creates arguments. It says you need more rest. It says tomorrow will be better. These arguments feel logical, but they are often excuses. Motivation feeds these debates. Discipline ends them. Another problem with motivation is that it creates unrealistic expectations. Motivational moments feel intense. You believe you can change everything at once. You create big plans. You set large goals. For a short time, this feels exciting, but intensity cannot last forever. Life includes tired days, busy days, stressful days. When these days arrive, your big plan becomes difficult. You feel overwhelmed. Then you quit. This is not because you are weak. It is because motivation pushed you too fast. Discipline grows slowly. It grows through consistency. Small actions repeated every day build stronger habits than intense bursts of effort. Motivation loves dramatic change. Discipline prefers steady progress. Another reason motivation fails is that it depends on emotion. Emotions are unpredictable. You cannot control when inspiration appears. You cannot force excitement. If you rely on emotional energy, your behavior will follow emotional waves. Some days you will feel unstoppable. Other days you will feel exhausted. Discipline protects you from these waves. It keeps you moving even when your emotions change. Another important truth is that motivation often appears after action, not before. Many people wait to feel ready before they start, but action often creates motivation. Once you begin working, your focus increases, your brain enters the task. Momentum builds. Suddenly, the work feels easier. This happens because your brain adapts to movement. Starting removes resistance. This is why disciplined people focus on starting quickly. They do not wait for motivation. They start small. Once action begins, motivation often follows naturally. Another problem with motivation is that it makes discipline feel emotional. You believe discipline should feel exciting. You expect enthusiasm. But real discipline often feels ordinary. It feels quiet. Sometimes it feels boring. But boring consistency produces powerful results. Think about learning a new skill. Progress comes from repetition. You practice again and again. Most practice sessions feel ordinary, but those ordinary sessions build mastery. Discipline accepts this reality. Motivation often rejects it. Another reason motivation fails is comparison. Motivational messages often show dramatic success. You see people achieving incredible results. This inspires you, but it can also create pressure. You compare your progress to others. When your results feel slower, motivation fades. Discipline ignores comparison. It focuses on daily effort. Effort is under your control. Results take time. Another weakness of motivation is that it disappears when life becomes difficult. Stress reduces emotional energy. Fatigue weakens excitement. During hard times, motivation vanishes quickly. Discipline continues working because discipline is not emotional. It is structural. You create routines, you follow schedules, you build habits. These systems guide your actions even when emotions are low. Another important difference between motivation and discipline is identity. Motivation tries to change behavior temporarily. Discipline changes identity slowly. Instead of saying, "I feel motivated today," you begin to think differently. You begin to say, "I am someone who keeps promises." Identity creates stability. When your identity changes, your actions follow naturally. You no longer debate whether to act. You act because it reflects who you are. Another reason motivation fails is that it depends on excitement. Excitement fades quickly. Your brain adapts to new experiences. What once felt exciting becomes normal. This is called adaptation. Motivation loses power once excitement fades. Discipline does not rely on excitement. It relies on commitment. Commitment continues even when excitement disappears. Another challenge with motivation is that it often focuses on results. You imagine the future outcome, success, recognition, achievement. This feels inspiring, but results are far away. Daily work happens now. When results feel distant, motivation weakens. Discipline focuses on process. Process is the daily work, the daily effort. When you focus on process, progress becomes visible. Another helpful strategy is creating clear rules for yourself. Rules remove decisions. When decisions disappear, resistance decreases. For example, you decide that a certain task happens every morning. You do not ask whether you feel motivated. You simply follow the rule. Rules protect discipline. Another powerful idea is designing your environment. Your environment influences behavior more than motivation. If distractions surround you, discipline becomes harder. If your environment supports focus, discipline becomes easier. Remove temptations. Create spaces that encourage productive habits. Environment quietly shapes actions. Another truth is that motivation often returns after discipline begins. This surprises many people. Once you start working consistently, progress appears. Progress creates satisfaction. Satisfaction creates motivation. Motivation becomes the reward, not the starting point. This reverses the normal cycle. Instead of waiting for motivation to act, you act to create motivation. Another helpful mindset is focusing on reliability. Reliable effort beats emotional effort. Reliability means you show up regularly, even when energy feels low, even when progress feels slow. Reliability builds trust with yourself. Self-trust strengthens discipline. Another challenge people face is impatience. They want fast results. Motivation promises quick change. Discipline offers slow transformation, but slow transformation lasts longer. Small improvements compound over time. Consistency multiplies results. Another important idea is accepting dull moments. Not every day will feel exciting. Some days will feel routine. Routine is not failure. Routine is stability. Stability builds progress. Another helpful practice is tracking effort. When you record daily actions, you see consistency. Seeing consistency reinforces discipline. It reminds you that progress is happening. Another powerful truth is that discipline becomes easier with practice. At the beginning, it feels difficult. Your brain resists change. But repeated action builds new habits. Habits reduce effort. Eventually, tasks feel natural. What once required discipline becomes automatic. This is the long-term reward. Another helpful mindset is focusing on the next action. Do not worry about the entire journey. Focus on the next step. Small steps create movement. Movement creates progress. Another challenge is emotional resistance. Your mind may complain. It may argue. But arguments lose power when action begins. Start before your mind finishes debating. Action interrupts resistance. Another important idea is patience with the process. Discipline grows quietly. You may not notice changes immediately, but every consistent action strengthens your foundation. One day you will look back and see how much has changed. The truth is simple. Motivation feels powerful, but temporary. Discipline feels ordinary but lasting. When you stop waiting for motivation, you gain control. You stop depending on emotion. You start depending on action, and that shift changes everything. Chapter 3. Winning the battle against your own mind. The hardest battles in life rarely happen outside. They happen inside your mind. You may sit in a quiet room with no one around. There is no noise, no pressure from others. Yet something inside you still resists. You know what you should do, but another voice appears. It says you are too tired. It says you can start later. It says today does not matter. This voice feels convincing. Many people believe this voice is their true self, but it is not. It is simply the mind trying to protect comfort. Your brain is designed to save energy. For thousands of years, survival required conserving resources. Effort meant risk. Rest meant safety. Even today, your brain still follows these old patterns. When a task requires effort, your brain reacts. It sends signals to slow down. It encourages delay. This is not a flaw in your character. It is a natural system. But discipline requires learning how to respond to that system. The first step is understanding that your mind creates stories. When resistance appears, your brain builds explanations. It says you need more time. It says the task is not urgent. These stories feel logical, but they are often excuses. Excuses protect comfort. Comfort protects energy, and energy protection keeps you from growing. Once you recognize this pattern, the battle becomes clearer. The voice inside your mind is not always correct. It is simply persuasive. The goal is not to silence that voice completely. The goal is to stop obeying it automatically. You can hear the voice and still choose action. This skill separates disciplined people from those who stay stuck. Disciplined people hear the same doubts. They simply do not treat them as commands. Instead, they treat them as noise. Noise may exist, but it does not control movement. Another important step is noticing when the battle begins. Most resistance appears at the start of a task. Before you begin working, your mind becomes active. It searches for reasons to delay. Once work begins, resistance often fades. This is why starting quickly is powerful. When you delay the start, the mind has more time to argue. When you begin immediately, the arguments weaken. The first action interrupts resistance. This is the hidden power of momentum. Momentum changes your mental state. Before starting, everything feels difficult. After starting, progress feels possible. The mind adapts to movement. This is why disciplined people train themselves to start fast. They reduce the time between decision and action. Less time means less resistance. Another strategy for winning this mental battle is simplifying choices. Your mind struggles when there are too many decisions. Every decision requires mental energy. When energy drops, resistance increases. Clear routines remove these decisions. If you already know what you will do and when you will do it, the mind has less space to argue. Routine reduces internal conflict. Another important idea is separating thoughts from identity. Your mind produces thousands of thoughts each day. Some thoughts are helpful, others are negative. But thoughts are not always true. They are simply mental events. When a thought appears that says you cannot continue, observe it. You do not need to believe it. You can acknowledge it and continue acting. This creates freedom. Your actions no longer depend on every thought. Instead, they depend on your decisions. Another powerful method is using small commitments. Large goals create fear. Fear increases resistance, but small actions feel manageable. If your mind resists working for hours, begin with minutes. Tell yourself you will work briefly. Often, once you begin, the mind relaxes, energy increases. Small commitments build confidence. Confidence weakens resistance. Another challenge in this battle is emotional discomfort. Some tasks feel boring, others feel stressful. Your mind tries to escape discomfort, but discomfort is part of growth. Every skill requires effort. Every improvement requires struggle. Discipline accepts discomfort as normal. Instead of avoiding it, disciplined people move through it. They understand that discomfort often signals progress. Another useful skill is observing emotions without reacting immediately. When frustration appears, pause. Notice the emotion. Do not fight it. Allow it to exist while continuing the task. This reduces emotional power. Emotions fade when they are not constantly fed. Another important idea is protecting your attention. Attention is one of your most valuable resources. Distractions weaken discipline. Phones, notifications, and endless entertainment compete for your focus. Each distraction trains your mind to avoid effort. Limiting distractions strengthens discipline. Create spaces where focus becomes easier. When your environment supports concentration, the mind struggles less. Another powerful strategy is reminding yourself of your long-term direction. Your mind focuses on immediate comfort. It prefers short-term pleasure, but discipline looks further. It considers the future. Each small action today shapes the life you will experience later. This perspective strengthens commitment. Another challenge in the mental battle is self-doubt. Your mind may question your ability. It may say you are not strong enough. These doubts feel personal, but they are often echoes of past experiences. Past struggles can influence current beliefs. However, beliefs can change. Every disciplined action creates new evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence changes beliefs. Another helpful technique is visualizing the next step clearly. When tasks feel overwhelming, break them down. Focus on the next action only. Clarity reduces mental resistance. Confusion increases it. Another powerful idea is practicing emotional neutrality. You do not need to feel excited to work. You do not need to feel inspired. You simply need to act. This mindset removes emotional dependency. Your behavior becomes stable. Another challenge is mental fatigue. Your brain becomes tired after long periods of decision-making. This is why planning ahead helps. Prepare tasks in advance. When the moment arrives, you simply begin. Preparation reduces decision fatigue. Another useful mindset is treating discipline like training. Athletes train their bodies. You train your mind. Each time you choose action over comfort, your mental strength increases. Strength grows through repetition. Another helpful idea is rewarding progress. Acknowledge effort. Recognizing progress reinforces discipline. It reminds your brain that action leads to positive outcomes. Another challenge is expecting constant progress. Some days will feel productive, others will feel slow. This is normal. Consistency matters more than speed. Even small progress keeps the habit alive. Another powerful truth is that your mind adapts over time. What feels difficult today may feel normal later. Habits reshape the brain. Neural pathways strengthen with repetition. This means discipline becomes easier with practice. Another important strategy is protecting your mornings. Morning decisions often shape the rest of the day. Starting with a productive action sets momentum. Momentum carries forward. Another helpful practice is ending each day with reflection. Notice what worked. Notice what can improve. Reflection strengthens awareness. Awareness improves future actions. Another challenge in the mental battle is identity conflict. If you believe you are someone who lacks discipline, your mind resists change, but identity evolves through action. Each disciplined choice updates your self-image. You begin to see yourself differently. Another important idea is patience. Mental strength develops gradually. Expecting instant transformation creates frustration. Allow time for habits to form. Consistency matters more than speed. Another useful mindset is remembering that the battle never disappears completely. Even disciplined people face resistance. The difference is experience. They recognize the voice quickly. They move through it faster. Resistance becomes familiar. Familiar challenges feel less intimidating. Another powerful truth is that you do not need to win every moment. You simply need to win most moments. Progress does not require perfection. It requires persistence. Another helpful strategy is focusing on action rather than emotion. Emotion fluctuates. Action creates results. When results appear, motivation grows naturally. Another challenge is believing discipline requires extreme effort. Often it requires small, steady actions. Consistency builds momentum. Momentum builds strength. Another important reminder is that you are not fighting your mind, you are training it. Training takes time, but every effort strengthens control. Over time, the internal battle becomes quieter. Your mind begins to support your actions instead of resisting them, and the person who once struggled to begin becomes someone who simply starts. Chapter 4. Building discipline through small daily wins. Many people believe discipline requires dramatic change. They imagine waking up one day and becoming completely different. They picture intense focus, perfect routines, unlimited energy. But real discipline rarely begins with big transformations. It begins with small wins. Small wins may look simple, almost too simple. You wake up and make your bed. You sit down and start a task for a few minutes. You finish something small that you promised yourself. These moments do not feel powerful at first, but they matter more than you think. Every small win sends a message to your brain. The message is clear. You can trust yourself. Self-trust is the foundation of discipline. When you keep a promise to yourself, even a tiny one, your confidence grows. When you break promises repeatedly, your confidence weakens. Discipline grows from repeated proof. Proof that you will act even when it feels inconvenient. This is why small actions matter so much. They build evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief builds identity. Another reason small wins are powerful is that they reduce resistance. Large goals often feel overwhelming. Your brain sees the effort required and reacts with avoidance, but small actions feel manageable. They lower the barrier to starting. Once you begin, momentum appears. Momentum is one of the strongest forces in discipline. Momentum means that action creates more action. When you complete a small task, your mind becomes more willing to continue. The hardest part is often the beginning. Small wins make the beginning easier. Another important truth about discipline is that it grows through consistency. Consistency does not require perfection. It requires repetition. If you perform a small action every day, your brain begins to expect it. Expectation turns into habit. Habits reduce effort. When something becomes a habit, you no longer debate whether to do it. You simply do it. This is how disciplined people operate. They rely on habits more than motivation. Another helpful idea is focusing on progress rather than intensity. Intensity feels exciting, but intensity often fades quickly. Progress lasts longer. Progress happens when you take steps forward regularly. Even small steps matter. Over time, these steps accumulate. What looks small today becomes significant tomorrow. Another challenge people face is impatience. They want fast results. They want dramatic improvement, but discipline rewards patience. Growth happens quietly. It often goes unnoticed in the beginning, but steady effort compounds over time. Compound progress is powerful. Each action builds on the previous one. Eventually, results become visible. Another useful strategy is defining clear and simple goals. Clarity reduces confusion. Confusion creates resistance. If your goals are vague, your mind struggles to act. But when tasks are specific, action becomes easier. Instead of thinking about a large project, define the next step. Clear steps reduce mental friction. Another important idea is celebrating effort. Many people only celebrate results, but results take time. Effort happens daily. When you acknowledge effort, you reinforce discipline. Your brain begins to associate action with positive feelings. This strengthens habits. Another challenge people face is discouragement. Progress sometimes feels slow. You may wonder if your efforts matter. During these moments, small wins become even more important. They remind you that progress is happening, even when the results are not visible yet. Another helpful mindset is focusing on what you can control. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control your effort. Effort is always available. When you focus on effort, you stay engaged. When you focus only on results, frustration grows. Another important idea is removing unnecessary complexity. Complex plans often fail. Simple routines survive. Choose actions that are easy to repeat. Repetition builds discipline faster than complexity. Another powerful strategy is tracking your progress. When you track actions, you see consistency. Seeing consistency reinforces identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Identity shapes behavior. When your identity shifts, discipline becomes easier. Another challenge people face is comparing themselves to others. Comparison often creates discouragement. You may feel behind. You may feel inadequate. But discipline is personal. Your journey belongs to you. Focus on your own progress. Another helpful idea is creating predictable routines. Predictability reduces mental effort. When your brain knows what to expect, resistance decreases. Routine creates stability. Stability supports discipline. Another useful mindset is accepting imperfect days. Some days will be productive, others will feel slow. Do not let imperfect days destroy consistency. Even small effort keeps the habit alive. Consistency matters more than perfection. Another important truth is that discipline often feels ordinary. It does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels repetitive. But repetition builds mastery. Mastery builds confidence. Confidence strengthens discipline. Another helpful practice is starting the day with one intentional action. A small win early in the day sets the tone. It signals that progress has begun. Momentum grows from early success. Another challenge people face is distractions. Distractions interrupt progress. They weaken focus. Reducing distractions protects your small wins. Protecting small wins protects discipline. Another powerful idea is focusing on the next action only. Do not worry about the entire journey. Focus on the next step. Completing the next step creates progress. Progress builds momentum. Another useful perspective is understanding that discipline is built through identity. Every action reinforces a story about who you are. If you act consistently, the story changes. You begin to believe you are someone who follows through. Identity influences future behavior. Another helpful practice is reflecting on your day. Ask yourself simple questions. What went well? What can improve? Reflection increases awareness. Awareness improves discipline. Another challenge people face is emotional resistance. Some tasks feel uncomfortable, but discomfort often signals growth. Discipline means moving forward despite discomfort. Small wins train your brain to tolerate discomfort. Tolerance builds resilience. Another important idea is designing environments that support success. Your environment influences behavior. If distractions are everywhere, discipline becomes harder. Create spaces that encourage focus. Environment shapes habits. Another powerful mindset is patience. Real discipline develops slowly. Expecting instant change creates frustration. Allow time for habits to form. Consistency over weeks and months creates transformation. Another helpful strategy is remembering your purpose. Why do your goals matter? Purpose strengthens commitment. When effort connects to purpose, discipline becomes meaningful. Another challenge people face is negative self-talk. Harsh criticism drains energy. Encouraging self-talk strengthens persistence. Treat yourself with the same support you would offer a friend. Another useful practice is acknowledging progress. Look back occasionally. Notice how far you have come. Recognition strengthens motivation. Another powerful truth is that discipline grows stronger with each repetition. Every small win builds the habit. Every habit strengthens identity. Identity shapes future actions. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. The actions that required effort become automatic, and the person who once struggled to stay consistent becomes someone who quietly follows through, not through dramatic change, but through small daily wins repeated again and again. Chapter 5. Doing the hard things first. Every day begins with choices. Some choices are easy, others feel heavy. Your mind naturally moves toward the easy ones. Easy tasks require little effort. They provide quick comfort. Hard tasks demand focus. They require energy and discipline. Because of this, many people delay difficult work. They start their day with simple activities, checking messages, scrolling through information, organizing small things. These actions feel productive, but they often hide avoidance. The real work remains untouched. As time passes, the difficult task becomes heavier. Your mind keeps thinking about it. The pressure grows. By the time you finally face it, your energy is already low. This pattern weakens discipline. One powerful solution is simple. Do the hard things first. When you face the most difficult task early, you remove the biggest weight from your mind. The rest of the day becomes easier. Your confidence grows because you already handled the challenge. This approach changes your relationship with work. Instead of running from difficulty, you move toward it. Another reason this strategy works is energy. Your mental energy is strongest earlier in the day. Your brain is fresh. Your attention is clearer. Later in the day, fatigue appears. Decisions become harder. Focus becomes weaker. This is why important tasks deserve your best energy. Using your strongest hours for your most meaningful work protects discipline. Another important idea is reducing anticipation. Anticipation often makes tasks seem worse than they are. You imagine difficulty before it begins. This imagination creates anxiety. But once you start the task, the reality is often easier. Action removes exaggeration. Starting early shortens the time your mind spends worrying. Another benefit of doing hard things first is emotional relief. When a difficult task is waiting, it occupies mental space. You cannot fully relax. Even while doing other things, part of your mind remembers the unfinished work. Completing the task early removes that tension. Your mind becomes lighter. Another helpful strategy is defining what hard means. Hard tasks usually share certain qualities. They require concentration. They feel uncomfortable. They involve uncertainty. These tasks often create resistance, but they are also the tasks that create growth. Growth rarely happens in comfort. Growth happens when effort stretches your abilities. Discipline means choosing growth over comfort. Another challenge people face is the desire for perfect preparation. You may tell yourself you need more time, more information, more planning. Preparation is useful, but endless preparation becomes delay. Sometimes the best preparation is beginning. Action reveals what you need to learn. Learning happens faster during movement. Another powerful mindset is accepting discomfort. Hard tasks often feel uncomfortable. Your brain may resist, but discomfort is temporary. Once you enter the work, your focus increases. Your mind adapts. The discomfort fades. Discipline teaches you to move through this temporary discomfort. Another helpful idea is limiting the number of priorities. If everything feels important, nothing receives full attention. Choose one meaningful task. Focus on completing it before moving to smaller activities. This creates clarity. Clarity strengthens discipline. Another challenge people face is distraction. When hard work begins, distractions become tempting. Your phone feels interesting. Your mind searches for easier alternatives. Protecting your attention becomes important. Remove unnecessary distractions. Create an environment where focus is easier. Environment shapes behavior more than willpower alone. Another powerful strategy is setting a clear starting point. Large tasks feel overwhelming, but specific starting points reduce resistance. Instead of thinking about completing a whole project, focus on the first step. Open the file. Write the first paragraph. Review the first page. Clear beginnings make action easier. Another important idea is building momentum. Once you start working, your brain enters a focused state. Momentum replaces resistance. Continuing becomes easier. Stopping breaks this momentum. Protect momentum when you feel it. Another helpful mindset is separating work from emotion. You do not need to feel excited to begin. You simply begin. Emotion often follows action. Action creates motivation. Motivation rarely creates action. Another challenge people face is fear of failure. Hard tasks carry risk. You may worry about mistakes, but avoiding tasks guarantees no progress. Progress requires risk. Every expert was once a beginner. Mistakes are part of learning. Discipline accepts imperfection. Another useful strategy is giving yourself limited time to think. Thinking is valuable, but excessive thinking creates delay. Set a moment to begin, then move. Movement builds clarity faster than endless analysis. Another powerful idea is building trust with yourself. Each time you face a difficult task early, you reinforce reliability. You prove that your intentions matter. Self-trust grows through consistent action. Another helpful practice is rewarding progress. After completing a challenging task, allow yourself a moment of recognition. Acknowledgement reinforces discipline. It reminds your brain that effort produces positive outcomes. Another challenge people face is expecting difficulty to disappear. Hard tasks will always feel difficult at times. Discipline does not eliminate difficulty, it changes how you respond. Instead of avoiding the challenge, you approach it calmly. Another important idea is protecting your morning mindset. The first actions of your day influence everything that follows. If you begin with distraction, distraction continues. If you begin with focus, focus strengthens. Choose your first actions carefully. Another useful perspective is seeing difficult tasks as opportunities. They build skill. They expand ability. They strengthen mental endurance. Easy tasks maintain comfort. Hard tasks create progress. Another helpful mindset is accepting slow progress. Difficult work often takes time. Patience supports persistence. Persistence produces results. Another challenge people face is perfectionism. Waiting for perfect conditions delays action. Conditions rarely become perfect. Progress happens in imperfect moments. Start anyway. Another powerful truth is that discipline compounds. Each day you choose the difficult task first. The habit strengthens. Eventually, the decision becomes easier. Your brain begins to expect it. Expectation reduces resistance. Another useful strategy is reflecting at the end of the day. Notice the impact of completing hard tasks early. Your mind feels lighter. Your confidence feels stronger. Reflection reinforces discipline. Another helpful idea is simplifying success. Success does not require extraordinary effort every day. It requires consistent effort over time. Facing one meaningful challenge each day builds momentum. Momentum builds progress. Another important reminder is that discipline grows through repetition. Every time you choose the hard task first, your mental strength increases. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. The habit forms quietly. One day you realize something has changed. You no longer avoid the challenge. You move toward it, not with excitement, but with calm determination. And that quiet determination becomes the foundation of real discipline. Chapter 6. Controlling your environment before it controls you. Many people believe discipline is only about willpower. They think success depends on mental strength alone. They imagine strong people resisting every temptation. But this idea is incomplete. Your environment plays a powerful role in your behavior. The places you work, the objects around you, the people near you, All of these influence your choices. If your environment encourages distraction, discipline becomes harder. If your environment supports focus, discipline becomes easier. Understanding this truth changes how you approach self-control. Instead of fighting constant temptation, you shape your surroundings. Your environment quietly guides your behavior every day. Consider a simple example. If your phone sits next to you while you work, it becomes a source of distraction. Notifications appear. Your attention shifts. Even if you resist sometimes, the effort drains energy. But if the phone is placed in another room, the temptation disappears. Your focus improves without extra effort. This small change shows the power of environment. Discipline becomes easier when distractions are removed. Another important idea is reducing decision fatigue. Your brain makes thousands of decisions each day. Each decision consumes mental energy. When energy decreases, resistance increases. A well-designed environment reduces unnecessary decisions. You prepare your workspace in advance. You organize tools before starting work. You create a space that invites productivity. Preparation protects your mental energy. Another powerful strategy is creating visual signals. Your surroundings constantly send messages to your brain. A cluttered desk signals chaos. A clean workspace signals focus. Books on your desk remind you to learn. Exercise equipment in view reminds you to move. Visual cues influence behavior quietly. They guide attention without effort. Another challenge people face is constant exposure to temptation. Modern environments offer endless entertainment, streaming services, social media, notifications. These systems are designed to capture attention. If you place yourself in the middle of these distractions, discipline becomes exhausting. Protecting your focus requires intentional choices. Limit unnecessary digital noise. Create boundaries around technology. Another helpful idea is designing spaces for specific activities. Your brain associates environments with behaviors. If you work in the same place where you relax, your mind becomes confused. Separate environments, improve focus. Use one space for work, another for rest, another for exercise. These boundaries strengthen habits. Another powerful strategy is preparing the next step before you finish the current one. For example, if you plan to work the next morning, organize your materials the night before. When the moment arrives, starting becomes easier. Preparation removes friction. Friction creates resistance. Reducing friction supports discipline. Another important idea is simplifying your surroundings. Too many choices overwhelm the mind. Clutter creates distraction. A simple environment reduces mental noise. Simplicity supports clarity. Clarity supports action. Another helpful practice is controlling your digital environment. Digital distractions can weaken discipline quickly. Limit unnecessary notifications. Organize your devices. Remove apps that encourage endless scrolling. Your digital space should serve your goals, not distract from them. Another challenge people face is social influence. The people around you influence your habits. If the people around you avoid discipline, it becomes harder to stay focused. If the people around you value growth, discipline becomes easier. Choose influences carefully. Surround yourself with people who respect effort. Another powerful mindset is recognizing that environment shapes behavior more than motivation. Motivation fades quickly. Environment remains constant. When your environment supports productive habits, you need less emotional energy to act. Another helpful strategy is creating barriers to bad habits. If something distracts you easily, make it harder to access. Distance creates resistance. Resistance discourages impulsive behavior. Small barriers protect discipline. Another useful idea is using triggers. Triggers are signals that start habits. A specific time of day, a particular location. For example, sitting at your desk may signal work. Entering the gym signals exercise. Triggers simplify decisions. Your brain recognizes the signal and begins the habit. Another important idea is protecting your attention during your most productive hours. Identify when your energy feels strongest. Use that time in an environment designed for focus. Protect those hours from interruptions. Your best energy deserves your best environment. Another challenge people face is emotional environment. Stressful surroundings weaken discipline. Calm environments support clarity. Music, lighting, and organization influence mood. Choose settings that encourage calm focus. Another helpful practice is removing items that encourage procrastination. If something repeatedly distracts you, remove it from your workspace. The fewer temptations around you, the less discipline you need to resist them. Another powerful idea is creating rituals. Rituals signal the beginning of focused work. A specific action repeated daily, making tea before starting work, opening a notebook, taking a few deep breaths. Rituals prepare your mind. They create a mental transition into focus. Another challenge people face is underestimating environmental influence. People often blame themselves for lack of discipline, but sometimes the environment is the problem. Adjusting surroundings can change behavior dramatically. Another helpful mindset is thinking of environment as a silent partner. It works with you or against you. If you design it carefully, it supports your goals. If you ignore it, it weakens discipline. Another useful strategy is organizing tasks visually. Lists or boards help track progress. Seeing progress motivates continued action. Visual progress reinforces habits. Another powerful truth is that discipline becomes easier when your environment reduces friction. Friction slows action. Low friction encourages movement. Design your surroundings to reduce barriers. Another challenge people face is unpredictable schedules. Consistency strengthens discipline. Creating predictable environments and times for important work builds stronger habits. Another helpful idea is limiting multitasking. Multitasking divides attention. Divided attention weakens discipline. Single-task environments improve focus. Another important practice is protecting your sleep environment. Rest influences discipline. A calm sleeping space improves recovery. Recovery supports mental strength. Another useful mindset is treating your environment as part of your strategy. Success rarely depends on willpower alone. Systems support effort. Environment is a powerful system. Another helpful strategy is reviewing your environment regularly. Notice what helps. Notice what distracts. Adjust accordingly. Continuous improvement strengthens discipline. Another important truth is that environment shapes identity. Your surroundings reflect your priorities. When your environment supports growth, your identity evolves. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Another challenge people face is temporary motivation, followed by environmental chaos. Motivation fades quickly in messy environments. Structure supports lasting discipline. Another helpful practice is preparing your environment for success each evening. Small preparation today creates smoother action tomorrow. Preparation protects momentum. Another powerful idea is remembering that discipline does not need to fight constant temptation. Smart design removes temptation before it appears. This approach saves energy. Energy supports consistency. Another useful perspective is viewing environment as leverage. Small changes create large effects. Moving one object, changing one habit space. These changes influence daily behavior. Another important reminder is that discipline becomes easier when your environment aligns with your goals. Alignment reduces resistance. Resistance drains motivation. Another helpful mindset is treating your environment as training. Every day your surroundings train your habits. Choose what they train carefully. Another powerful truth is that discipline does not exist only in your mind. It exists in your systems. It exists in your routines. It exists in your environment. When your environment supports your goals, discipline stops feeling like a constant battle. Instead, it becomes a natural path forward. Chapter 7. Acting before your mind talks you out of it. One of the biggest enemies of discipline is hesitation. Hesitation happens in the small space between decision and action. You decide to begin a task, but instead of starting immediately, you pause. In that pause, your mind becomes active. It begins to speak. It says you should wait a little longer. It says you should prepare more. It says you should start later when you feel ready. These thoughts appear quickly. They feel logical, but they are often the beginning of procrastination. The longer you hesitate, the stronger these thoughts become. Your brain searches for comfort. It creates reasons to delay. Soon the task feels heavier than before. This is why disciplined people develop a powerful habit. They act before their mind talks them out of it. When they decide to do something important, they move quickly. They do not give their mind too much time to argue. Speed protects discipline. This does not mean rushing carelessly. It means reducing unnecessary delay. The moment you decide to start, take the first action. Open the document. Stand up to exercise. Begin the first step. Small action interrupts hesitation. Hesitation feeds resistance. Action breaks it. Another important truth is that the mind loves comfort. Comfort feels safe. Hard work feels uncertain. Your brain tries to protect you from uncertainty. It encourages delay, but growth always requires some uncertainty. When you act quickly, you move through uncertainty instead of sitting inside it. Movement creates clarity. Clarity reduces fear. Another challenge people face is overthinking. Overthinking creates endless mental loops. You think about the task. You analyze it. You imagine possible problems. Soon the task feels overwhelming, but thinking alone rarely solves the problem. Action reveals the next step. Movement creates information. Information improves decisions. Another helpful strategy is counting down. When you feel hesitation, give yourself a short countdown. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, then begin. This technique interrupts mental resistance. Your brain has less time to create excuses. Action begins before doubt grows stronger. Another powerful idea is separating thinking time from doing time. Thinking is valuable when planning, but once the moment for action arrives, thinking should pause. Your focus shifts to doing. This separation reduces confusion. Another challenge people face is waiting for the perfect moment. You may believe the right time has not arrived. You may want more energy or better conditions, but perfect moments rarely appear. Progress happens during ordinary moments. When you act despite imperfect conditions, discipline grows stronger. Another helpful mindset is remembering that starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, your brain adapts. Focus increases. Momentum builds. The task that felt heavy begins to feel manageable. Many people quit before experiencing this shift. Disciplined people push through the first few minutes. Those minutes change everything. Another powerful strategy is creating immediate triggers. A trigger is a signal that tells your brain to act. For example, sitting at your desk becomes the signal to begin work. Putting on running shoes becomes the signal to exercise. Triggers simplify decisions. They reduce hesitation. Another important idea is training your brain to associate action with identity. Each time you act quickly, you reinforce a belief. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Identity influences future behavior. When your identity changes, discipline becomes easier. Another challenge people face is emotional resistance. You may feel tired, unmotivated, distracted, but action does not require perfect emotions. You can act while feeling uncertain. You can act while feeling tired. Your feelings do not need to control your behavior. Another helpful practice is focusing only on the first step. Large tasks feel intimidating, but the first step is usually simple. Open the file. Write the first sentence. First steps create movement. Movement builds momentum. Another useful mindset is accepting that hesitation will appear often. Even disciplined people experience it. The difference is how quickly they respond. They recognize hesitation early. They move through it quickly. Another powerful truth is that action creates confidence. Confidence rarely appears before action. It appears afterward. When you complete a task, your brain records success. Success strengthens belief. Belief strengthens discipline. Another helpful strategy is removing unnecessary preparation. Preparation is important, but too much preparation becomes delay. Sometimes the best preparation is beginning. Starting reveals what you need to learn. Another challenge people face is distraction. Hesitation gives distractions time to appear. You check your phone. You open something unrelated. Minutes disappear. Quick action protects attention. Attention supports discipline. Another important idea is building trust with yourself. Each time you act immediately, you reinforce reliability. Your brain learns that your decisions lead to action. Self-trust grows. Another helpful mindset is focusing on effort rather than outcome. When you focus on results, pressure increases. When you focus on effort, starting feels easier. Effort happens now. Results appear later. Another useful practice is setting clear rules. For example, when you sit down to work, you begin immediately. Rules remove negotiation. Negotiation creates hesitation. Another powerful strategy is using physical movement. If your mind feels stuck, move your body. Stand up, walk, change position. Movement shifts mental state. Energy returns. Another challenge people face is expecting discipline to feel easy. Often it feels uncomfortable, but discomfort fades after action begins. Your brain adapts. This adaptation reduces resistance over time. Another helpful idea is protecting your morning decisions. Morning actions often shape the rest of the day. If you start with hesitation, hesitation spreads. If you start with action, momentum builds. Another powerful truth is that hesitation weakens discipline over time. Each delay trains your brain to postpone effort. Quick action trains your brain to follow through. Your habits shape your future behavior. Another useful mindset is focusing on progress rather than perfection. Perfectionism encourages delay. Progress encourages action. Small progress builds momentum. Momentum builds results. Another helpful practice is celebrating quick starts. Recognize the moment you overcame hesitation. Acknowledgement reinforces discipline. Another challenge people face is internal doubt. Your mind may question your ability, but ability grows through action. Action creates learning. Learning builds skill. Skill builds confidence. Another powerful idea is remembering that hesitation is temporary. It appears briefly. If you move through it quickly, it loses power. If you sit inside it, it grows stronger. Your response determines its strength. Another helpful perspective is viewing hesitation as a signal. It often appears before meaningful work. When hesitation appears, it may mean you are about to do something valuable. Recognizing this changes your reaction. Instead of retreating, you move forward. Another useful strategy is setting a timer. Commit to working for a short period. Once the timer begins, your focus increases. Time boundaries reduce mental pressure. Another important reminder is that discipline grows through repetition. Each quick action strengthens the habit. Each habit shapes identity. Over time, hesitation loses control. Starting becomes natural. The space between decision and action becomes smaller, and the person who once struggled to begin becomes someone who simply moves forward. Not because hesitation disappeared, but because action became stronger than doubt. Chapter 8. Becoming the person who never breaks promises to yourself. Every act of discipline begins with a promise. You promise yourself that you will wake up early. You promise yourself that you will finish a task. You promise yourself that you will stay consistent. These promises may seem small, but they shape something deeper. They shape your relationship with yourself. Many people do not realize how important this relationship is. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, something changes inside. Your brain begins to doubt you. You tell yourself that you will start tomorrow. But tomorrow arrives and nothing changes. After enough broken promises, your mind stops believing your words. You may still make plans, but a quiet voice inside says it probably will not happen. This is how discipline weakens, not because of a lack of ability, but because trust disappears. Discipline grows from self-trust. Self-trust means you believe your actions will follow your decisions. It means your words carry weight with yourself. This trust cannot be built with motivation. It must be built through consistency. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen that trust. Even a small promise matters. If you decide to work for 10 minutes and you follow through, your brain records success. Success builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. Identity strengthens discipline. Another challenge many people face is making promises that are too large. Large promises feel exciting, but they are often difficult to maintain. When you fail to keep them, self-trust weakens again. The solution is simple. Start with promises you can keep. Small promises. Promises that require effort, but remain possible. For example, promise to begin, promise to work briefly, promise to take the first step. Keeping these promises builds momentum. Momentum builds stronger commitments. Another important idea is understanding that your brain is always watching your behavior. Your mind learns from patterns. If you repeatedly avoid tasks, your brain learns that avoidance is normal. If you consistently follow through, your brain learns that action is expected. This learning shapes identity. Over time, your identity becomes someone who follows through. Once identity changes, discipline becomes easier. Another powerful truth is that promises to yourself deserve the same respect as promises to others. Most people work hard to keep promises they make to others. They arrive on time. They finish responsibilities. But when the promise is only to themselves, they become flexible. They allow delay. They allow excuses. But your promises to yourself are just as important. They shape your life. When you begin treating these promises seriously, discipline grows naturally. Another helpful strategy is writing down your commitments. When something exists only in your mind, it feels optional. But when you write it down, it becomes clearer. Clarity increases accountability. Seeing your commitments reminds you of your intentions. Another useful mindset is focusing on reliability rather than intensity. Intensity feels exciting, but reliability builds trust. Reliable effort means you show up regularly, even on difficult days, even when progress feels slow. Reliability strengthens self-respect. Another challenge people face is emotional resistance. You may not always feel like following through. Your mood may change. Your energy may drop. But discipline does not depend on perfect emotion. It depends on consistent action. You keep the promise even when the feeling changes. Another important idea is protecting your commitments from distraction. When distractions appear, they weaken focus. Protect your promises by creating environments that support them. Remove unnecessary interruptions. Create spaces that encourage follow-through. Another helpful practice is celebrating promises kept. Each time you keep a commitment, acknowledge it. Recognition strengthens the habit. Your brain begins to associate discipline with positive outcomes. Another challenge people face is discouragement after failure. Sometimes you will break a promise. Sometimes you will miss a day. This does not destroy discipline. What matters is your response. Instead of quitting completely, return quickly. Restart the promise. Consistency is built over time, not in a single moment. Another powerful idea is focusing on identity. Instead of thinking about tasks alone, think about who you are becoming. Each promise kept strengthens that identity. You become someone who respects their own decisions. Identity shapes behavior. When your identity changes, discipline becomes natural. Another helpful mindset is remembering that small promises compound. One promise today, another tomorrow, another next week. These actions accumulate. Over months and years, they transform your life. Another challenge people face is comparing themselves to others. Comparison distracts from your own commitments. Your journey belongs to you. Focus on your promises, your growth, your progress. Another useful practice is reviewing your commitments daily. Take a moment each day to ask a simple question. Did I keep my promise today? Reflection builds awareness. Awareness strengthens discipline. Another powerful truth is that discipline is built quietly. There is rarely applause. No one may notice your effort, but you will notice. Your self-respect will grow. Another important idea is treating discipline like training. Every promise kept strengthens your mental muscles. Every effort builds endurance. Strength grows through repetition. Another challenge people face is expecting discipline to feel easy. Often it feels uncomfortable, but discomfort fades as habits form. Over time, keeping promises feels normal. Another helpful strategy is limiting the number of promises you make. Too many commitments create overwhelm. Choose a few meaningful ones. Protect them carefully. Another powerful mindset is remembering why your promises matter. Your goals depend on them. Your future depends on them. Every promise kept moves you closer to the life you want. Another useful idea is removing unnecessary negotiation. When you decide something matters, treat it as non-negotiable. Negotiation creates hesitation. Clear commitment creates action. Another challenge people face is believing discipline requires perfection. Perfection is unrealistic. Consistency is enough. Missing occasionally does not destroy progress. Returning quickly protects discipline. Another helpful practice is visualizing the person you want to become. Imagine someone who follows through consistently. Imagine their habits, then act in ways that match that image. Each action moves you closer. Another powerful truth is that discipline creates freedom. At first, discipline feels restrictive, but over time it creates control. Control over your time, control over your progress, control over your life. Another important idea is recognizing that your future self depends on your current actions. The promises you keep today become the opportunities you experience later. Another helpful mindset is gratitude for progress. Notice the growth. Appreciate the effort. Recognition strengthens motivation. Another challenge people face is external pressure. Other people may not understand your commitments. They may not value discipline the same way, but your promises belong to you. Protect them. Another useful strategy is focusing on the next promise only. Do not worry about the entire future. Keep the next commitment, then the next, step by step. Another powerful idea is remembering that discipline changes identity gradually. At first you struggle, later you improve. Eventually following through becomes natural. The person who once broke promises becomes someone who quietly keeps them, not through sudden transformation, but through daily commitment, through small promises honored again and again. And in that process, discipline stops feeling like a struggle. It becomes part of who you are. Chapter 9. Turning discipline into an automatic habit. At the beginning, discipline feels difficult. Every action requires effort. You must remind yourself to begin. You must push through resistance. It feels like a constant battle between what you want to do and what you should do. But this stage does not last forever. With time and repetition, discipline can become automatic. When discipline becomes a habit, the struggle becomes smaller. You no longer argue with yourself every day. You simply follow the routine. This transformation is one of the most powerful changes a person can experience. The key to this change is repetition. Your brain learns through repeated actions. Every time you perform a behavior, your brain strengthens a pathway. These pathways form habits. Habits allow you to act with less effort. Think about something you do automatically. Brushing your teeth, locking your door, checking the time. You do these things without long debates. Your brain has already decided. The same process can happen with discipline. If you repeat productive actions enough times, they become part of your routine. Another important idea is consistency. Consistency matters more than intensity. Many people work very hard for a few days. Then they stop. This pattern does not create habits. Habits require steady repetition. Even small actions repeated daily can create powerful change. Another challenge people face is expecting discipline to feel exciting. But habits rarely feel exciting. They feel normal. Normal routines are the foundation of long-term success. Another helpful strategy is linking new habits to existing ones. Your day already contains many routines. You wake up, you eat, you travel, you sleep. Attach new habits to these existing patterns. For example, After breakfast, you begin focused work. After work, you exercise. Linking habits to routines makes them easier to remember. Another powerful method is reducing friction. Friction is anything that makes a habit difficult to start. If your workspace is messy, starting work becomes harder. If your tools are difficult to find, action becomes slower. Removing friction encourages consistency. Prepare what you need before the moment arrives. Preparation simplifies action. Another useful idea is creating clear cues. A cue is a signal that starts a habit. It can be a time, a location, or a specific action. For example, sitting at your desk becomes the cue for focused work. Putting on your shoes becomes the cue for exercise. Cues trigger habits automatically. Another challenge people face is distraction. Distractions interrupt habit formation. Each time a habit is interrupted, the pattern weakens. Protect your habits by creating focused environments. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Choose spaces where attention is easier to maintain. Another helpful strategy is keeping habits simple. Complex routines are harder to repeat. Simple habits survive difficult days. When your routine is simple, you are more likely to follow it consistently. Another important idea is patience. Habits take time to develop. Many people expect quick results, but real habit formation requires repetition over weeks and months. Do not rush the process. Allow discipline to grow naturally. Another useful mindset is focusing on identity. Instead of thinking about tasks alone, think about who you are becoming. Each habit reinforces identity. When you repeat a habit consistently, your identity changes. You begin to see yourself differently. You are no longer someone trying to be disciplined. You are someone who is disciplined. Identity strengthens habits. Another powerful idea is celebrating consistency. Recognize the days you follow your routine. Acknowledgement reinforces behavior. Your brain associates discipline with positive feelings. This strengthens motivation. Another challenge people face is missing a day. Sometimes you will break a routine. You may feel discouraged. But missing once does not destroy a habit. What matters is returning quickly. Restart the routine the next day. Consistency over time matters more than occasional interruptions. Another helpful practice is tracking your habits. Seeing your progress creates motivation. A simple record of completed days can reinforce discipline. Progress becomes visible. Visibility strengthens commitment. Another useful idea is limiting the number of habits you build at once. Trying to change everything at the same time creates overwhelm. Focus on one habit. Once it becomes stable, add another. Slow progress builds stronger foundations. Another powerful strategy is protecting your morning routine. Morning habits shape the entire day. Starting with a productive action creates momentum. Momentum carries forward. Another challenge people face is boredom. Repeating the same habit every day can feel dull, but boredom is part of mastery. Experts repeat fundamentals many times. Repetition builds skill. Skill builds confidence. Another helpful mindset is focusing on long-term rewards. Habits may feel small in the moment, but their effects accumulate. Daily effort compounds into significant progress. Another important idea is adjusting habits when necessary. Life changes. Schedules change. Adapt your routines when needed. Flexibility keeps habits alive. Another useful practice is reflecting regularly. Ask yourself simple questions. What habit is working well? What habit needs improvement? Reflection strengthens awareness. Awareness improves discipline. Another powerful truth is that habits reduce mental effort. Once a habit forms, you no longer rely on motivation. Your brain performs the behavior automatically. This saves energy. Energy can be used for more complex tasks. Another challenge people face is believing that disciplined people never struggle. Even disciplined people experience resistance, but their habits carry them forward. Habits provide stability during difficult moments. Another helpful strategy is creating rituals around your habits. Rituals prepare your mind. For example, preparing your workspace before beginning, or taking a few deep breaths before focusing. Rituals signal the start of productive action. Another important reminder is that discipline does not need to feel dramatic. Often it feels quiet. You simply follow your routine. Over time, this quiet consistency builds powerful results. Another useful mindset is remembering that small habits shape your future. Each repetition strengthens your path. Each action builds momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity reinforces discipline. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The actions that once required effort become automatic. You begin working without long debates. You follow your routine naturally. Discipline becomes part of your daily rhythm, and the person who once struggled to stay consistent becomes someone who quietly follows through every day. Not through constant effort, but through habits that work for you instead of against you. Chapter 10. Pushing forward when progress feels slow. There are moments in every journey when progress feels invisible. You work hard, you follow your routine, you stay consistent, but nothing seems to change. Your results look the same. Your efforts feel unnoticed. During these moments, discipline becomes difficult. Your mind begins to question everything. It asks whether the effort is worth it. It wonders if the goal is realistic. It suggests stopping. This stage is where many people give up, not because they lack ability, but because progress feels slow. Understanding this phase is important. Slow progress is not a sign of failure. It is a normal part of growth. Most meaningful improvements take time. Skills develop gradually. Strength builds slowly. Habits deepen through repetition. But the human mind prefers quick rewards. We like immediate results. When results are delayed, motivation weakens. Discipline protects you during these periods. It allows you to continue working even when progress is not obvious. Another important truth is that growth is rarely linear. Progress does not move in a straight line. Some days feel productive. Other days feel stagnant. Some weeks show improvement. Other weeks feel slow. This pattern is natural. Learning and growth often happen beneath the surface. Your brain adapts quietly. Your skills strengthen gradually. Then one day, improvement becomes visible. But that visible change is built on many invisible efforts. Another helpful perspective is thinking about compound progress. Small improvements accumulate. Each day you practice, your ability increases slightly. The change may be too small to notice immediately, but over time, these small improvements multiply. Consistency turns tiny progress into significant results. Another challenge people face is comparing their progress to others. Comparison creates frustration. You may feel behind. You may feel inadequate. But every journey has a different timeline. Your progress depends on your starting point, your effort, and your circumstances. Comparing paths only distracts from your own growth. Focus on your process. Your discipline belongs to you. Another helpful idea is measuring progress differently. Sometimes results are not visible yet, but effort is visible. Ask yourself simple questions. Did you show up today? Did you follow your routine? Did you make progress on the task? These questions focus on behavior rather than outcome. Behavior is under your control. Results appear later. Another important mindset is patience. Patience does not mean waiting passively. It means continuing effort while understanding that results take time. Patience strengthens discipline. Without patience, frustration grows. Another useful strategy is breaking goals into smaller milestones. Large goals can feel distant, but smaller milestones provide encouragement. Each milestone reminds you that progress is happening. Another challenge people face is emotional fatigue. Working without visible rewards can feel exhausting. During these moments, reconnect with your purpose. Why did you begin? What future are you working toward? Purpose renews motivation. Another powerful idea is trusting the process. Processes that rely on consistency produce results eventually. Athletes trust their training. Artists trust their practice. Writers trust their drafts. Trusting the process allows you to continue working without constant doubt. Another helpful mindset is accepting slow days. Some days will feel productive, others will feel heavy. Discipline means showing up on both kinds of days. Showing up matters more than feeling productive. Consistency builds strength. Another important idea is protecting your routine during difficult periods. When progress feels slow, the temptation to quit increases. This is the moment when routine matters most. Your habits carry you forward when motivation disappears. Another useful practice is focusing on the next step. Do not think about the entire journey. Focus on the next action. Complete the next task. Small steps maintain momentum. Another powerful truth is that perseverance separates success from failure. Many people start strong. Few continue long enough to see results. Those who persist eventually experience breakthroughs. Breakthroughs often appear suddenly, but they are built on many days of quiet effort. Another challenge people face is negative self-talk. Your mind may criticize you. It may say you are not improving. These thoughts weaken discipline. Replace criticism with encouragement. Remind yourself that progress takes time. Another helpful strategy is reviewing your past progress. Look back at where you started. Notice the improvements you have made. Reflection reveals growth that daily effort may hide. Another important idea is focusing on learning instead of winning. Learning happens every day. Even when results feel slow, learning continues. Learning strengthens skill. Skill eventually produces results. Another useful mindset is gratitude for effort. Recognize the courage required to keep trying. Acknowledging effort strengthens resilience. Another challenge people face is burnout. Working without rest can weaken discipline. Rest is not the enemy of progress. Rest restores energy. Balanced effort supports long-term consistency. Another helpful practice is maintaining healthy routines. Sleep, exercise, and nutrition influence discipline. When your body feels strong, your mind performs better. Another powerful idea is remembering that slow progress is still progress. Even small improvements move you forward. Standing still would mean no progress, but as long as you continue acting, progress exists. Another useful strategy is surrounding yourself with supportive influences. Encouraging people strengthen perseverance. Negative influences weaken motivation. Choose your influences carefully. Another important mindset is accepting uncertainty. You may not know exactly when results will appear, but effort increases the chances. Consistency creates opportunity. Another challenge people face is expecting recognition. Sometimes your effort goes unnoticed, but the most important recognition comes from yourself. Self-respect grows when you persist despite difficulty. Another helpful idea is treating discipline like a long journey. Journeys require endurance. Endurance requires patience. Patience supports perseverance. Another powerful truth is that most people quit too early. They stop just before improvement appears. The difference between success and failure is often persistence. Another useful perspective is focusing on growth instead of speed. Growth builds lasting change. Speed creates temporary excitement. Lasting change matters more. Another important reminder is that discipline transforms identity. Each day you persist, you become stronger mentally. You begin to see yourself differently. Identity shapes behavior. Another helpful strategy is celebrating consistency. Each day you continue is a victory. Each effort strengthens the habit. Recognition reinforces discipline. Another powerful idea is understanding that effort compounds. Today's effort supports tomorrow's progress. Tomorrow's progress builds future success. Over time, these efforts multiply. Another challenge people face is believing progress should always feel exciting. Often it feels ordinary, but ordinary effort repeated daily creates extraordinary results. Another helpful mindset is remembering that the journey itself builds character. Discipline shapes patience. Patience shapes resilience. Resilience shapes success. Another powerful truth is that persistence changes everything. The person who keeps going becomes someone stronger, not overnight, but through steady effort. And eventually, the progress that once felt invisible becomes undeniable. The results appear, the skills improve, the goals come closer, and the discipline that carried you through slow progress becomes the foundation of lasting success. Chapter 11. Discipline on your weakest days. Anyone can work when they feel strong. When energy is high, focus feels natural. When motivation is present, effort feels easier. But those are not the days that define discipline. Real discipline appears on your weakest days, the days when your body feels tired, the days when your mind feels distracted, the days when everything feels harder than usual. These moments test your commitment. Your brain searches for relief. It suggests taking a break. It suggests delaying until tomorrow. Sometimes rest is necessary, but often the mind exaggerates fatigue. It prefers comfort. Understanding this difference is important. Weak days are part of every journey. No one feels strong all the time. Even the most disciplined people experience fatigue. The difference is how they respond. Instead of expecting perfect energy, they prepare for difficult days. Preparation protects discipline. One helpful strategy is lowering expectations without lowering commitment. On strong days, you may work for long periods. On weak days, reduce the intensity. Work for a shorter time. Focus on smaller tasks, but continue moving forward. Small effort still builds momentum. Another important idea is protecting your routine. Routines create stability. Even when energy is low, following your routine keeps habits alive. Missing one day can break momentum. Continuing the routine maintains discipline. Another helpful mindset is remembering that action often creates energy. When you feel tired, starting a task may seem impossible, but once you begin, your brain activates, focus increases, energy improves, movement changes your mental state. This is why beginning matters even on weak days. Another challenge people face is emotional resistance. You may feel frustrated or discouraged. These emotions can make tasks feel heavier. But emotions are temporary. They change with action. Completing even a small task improves mood. Progress creates relief. Another useful strategy is simplifying your work. On difficult days, choose the simplest meaningful action. Open the file, review your notes, write a few sentences. Small steps maintain progress. Progress maintains discipline. Another powerful idea is separating effort from outcome. Weekdays may not produce your best results, but effort still matters. Showing up reinforces your habit. Habits strengthen discipline. Another helpful mindset is remembering your purpose. When motivation fades, purpose remains. Your goals still matter. Your future still depends on your actions. Purpose provides direction when emotions fluctuate. Another challenge people face is negative self-talk. On weekdays, your inner voice may become harsh. It may criticize your productivity, but harsh criticism drains energy. Replace criticism with patience. Encourage yourself to continue. Another useful practice is focusing on one task at a time. Multiple tasks create overwhelm. Choose one simple action. Complete it. Completion builds confidence. Another important idea is protecting your environment. On weekdays, distractions become more tempting. Reduce them as much as possible. Create spaces where focus is easier. Environment supports discipline. Another powerful strategy is remembering past success. Think about times when you continued despite difficulty. These memories prove your ability. Confidence grows from evidence. Another helpful mindset is accepting imperfection. Weekdays rarely produce perfect work, but imperfect work still moves you forward. Progress does not require perfection. Another challenge people face is believing weekdays erase progress. One slow day does not destroy discipline. What matters is returning the next day. Consistency over time matters more than individual moments. Another useful strategy is creating minimum standards. A minimum standard is the smallest action you will take regardless of mood. For example, working for 10 minutes or completing one small step. Minimum standards protect consistency. Another powerful idea is recognizing that discipline builds resilience. Each time you act during weakness, your mental strength increases. Resilience grows through practice. Practice happens during difficult moments. Another helpful mindset is focusing on effort instead of emotion. Emotion changes constantly. Effort remains under your control. Choose effort. Another challenge people face is fatigue from overworking. Balance matters. Rest when necessary, But do not confuse rest with avoidance. True rest restores energy. Avoidance delays progress. Another useful practice is creating rituals for difficult days. Simple actions can prepare your mind. Take a deep breath. Organize your workspace. Begin slowly. Rituals signal the start of effort. Another important idea is protecting your sleep and health. Your physical condition influences discipline. Healthy habits support mental strength. Another powerful truth is that weak days create strong character. Easy days build comfort. Difficult days build resilience. Resilience strengthens discipline. Another helpful strategy is remembering that progress compounds. Even small actions accumulate. Consistency multiplies effort. Another challenge people face is losing momentum after a difficult day. Recovery matters. Return quickly. Do not let one weak moment become a habit. Another useful mindset is gratitude for effort. Recognize the courage required to continue. Acknowledgement strengthens persistence. Another powerful idea is focusing on identity. You are becoming someone who acts despite weakness. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. Another helpful practice is reflecting on your discipline. Ask yourself how you responded to weakness. Reflection builds awareness. Awareness improves future actions. Another important reminder is that discipline does not require constant strength. It requires commitment. Commitment continues even when strength feels low. Another useful perspective is treating weekdays as training. Athletes train during fatigue. Writers write during doubt. Workers perform during distraction. Training builds endurance. Endurance builds success. Another powerful truth is that most people stop when they feel weak. Those who continue move ahead. Persistence creates opportunity. Another helpful mindset is remembering that discipline is not about feeling ready. It is about acting anyway. Another challenge people face is believing that discipline should always feel motivating. Often it feels ordinary, sometimes it feels difficult. But difficulty does not stop progress. Another useful practice is celebrating consistency. Even small effort on weekdays deserves recognition. Recognition reinforces discipline. Another important idea is trusting your ability to recover. Weekdays pass, energy returns, progress continues. Another powerful truth is that discipline on weekdays defines your future. Strong days are easy. Weekdays require commitment, and each time you choose effort during weakness, you strengthen the habit of discipline. Eventually, acting despite difficulty becomes natural. The person who once struggled on weekdays becomes someone who simply continues, not because weakness disappeared, but because commitment became stronger than comfort. Chapter 12. Becoming the person who acts no matter how you feel. At the beginning of this journey, discipline may have felt difficult. Your emotions influenced your actions. Your motivation determined your productivity. Some days you worked hard, other days you stopped. Your progress depended on how you felt. But real discipline changes this relationship. Instead of letting emotions control behavior, you learn to act regardless of how you feel. This is the final transformation. You become someone who acts no matter the mood, no matter the energy, no matter the comfort. This does not mean ignoring your emotions completely. Your feelings still matter, but they no longer decide your direction. Your decisions become stronger than your moods. Another important truth is that discipline is not a single moment of strength. It is a pattern created by repeated choices. Every day you face small decisions. You choose whether to start or delay. You choose whether to continue or quit. These decisions seem small, but over time they shape your life. Your habits build your future. When you consistently choose action, your identity changes. You begin to see yourself differently. You no longer think of discipline as something you are trying to achieve. You see it as part of who you are. Identity is powerful. When your identity changes, your behavior follows naturally. Another important idea is understanding that discipline creates freedom. At first, discipline may feel restrictive. You follow routines, you limit distractions, you commit to effort. But over time, these habits create control. Control over your time, control over your attention, control over your progress. This control creates freedom. Freedom to build the life you want. Another helpful mindset is remembering that discipline protects your goals. Your goals represent your future. Without discipline, goals remain ideas. With discipline, goals become reality. Each action moves your future closer. Another challenge people face is expecting discipline to eliminate struggle. But struggle never disappears completely. Even disciplined people experience resistance. The difference is that they move through resistance quickly. They recognize the feeling, then they act anyway. Another powerful truth is that discipline reduces internal conflict. At the beginning, you argue with yourself. Part of you wants to work, another part wants comfort. But when habits become strong, the argument becomes quiet. Your routine decides for you. Routine simplifies action. Another helpful idea is focusing on consistency rather than perfection. Perfection creates pressure. Consistency builds progress. Even small actions repeated daily produce significant change. Another important reminder is that discipline grows through patience. Transformation rarely happens overnight, but steady effort builds strong foundations. These foundations support long-term success. Another useful mindset is respecting the process. Your routine deserves attention. Your habits deserve protection. Treat your discipline like something valuable, because it is. Another challenge people face is losing direction after achieving a goal. Discipline should not end when success appears. It should continue evolving. New goals appear. New challenges arise. Your discipline carries you through each stage. Another powerful idea is viewing discipline as a lifelong practice. Just like physical fitness, just like learning, you maintain it through regular effort. Another helpful strategy is reflecting on your progress. Look back at how far you have come. Notice how your habits have changed. Reflection builds confidence. Confidence strengthens discipline. Another important idea is sharing your discipline with others. Your behavior influences people around you. When you show consistency, others notice. Your example can inspire them. Another useful perspective is remembering that your discipline creates opportunity. Opportunities often appear for those who are prepared. Preparation comes from consistent effort. Another challenge people face is complacency. When progress becomes comfortable, effort may decrease. Stay aware of this tendency. Continue improving. Growth never stops. Another helpful mindset is gratitude for your progress. Every habit you built required effort. Every improvement required persistence. Recognizing your journey strengthens your commitment. Another powerful truth is that discipline builds confidence. Each time you follow through, you prove something to yourself. You prove that your decisions matter. You prove that you can rely on your actions. Self-trust becomes strong. Another useful practice is protecting your mental environment. Negative influences weaken discipline. Positive influences strengthen it. Choose what you read, watch, and listen to carefully. Another important idea is remembering that discipline creates momentum. Momentum builds progress. Progress builds results. Results reinforce discipline. Another challenge people face is fear of failure. Failure may appear during the journey, but failure is not the end. It is feedback. Feedback improves strategy. Strategy strengthens progress. Another helpful mindset is focusing on effort rather than outcome. Effort remains within your control. Results follow effort over time. Another powerful idea is staying committed to growth. Every new challenge strengthens your ability. Growth creates resilience. Resilience supports discipline. Another important reminder is that your future self depends on your current habits. The choices you make today shape the life you will experience later. Another useful perspective is recognizing that discipline creates peace of mind. When you follow through on your commitments, your mind feels calm. You know you are moving forward. Another helpful strategy is continuing to refine your routines. Adjust your systems when necessary. Improvement keeps discipline alive. Another powerful truth is that discipline is built quietly. Most of your effort will happen without recognition, but your results will reflect that effort. Another important mindset is remembering why you began. Your goals matter, your growth matters, your future matters. Another challenge people face is believing discipline must always feel strong. Sometimes it feels ordinary, sometimes it feels routine, but routine creates results. Another useful practice is protecting your time. Time is your most valuable resource. Use it intentionally. Another powerful idea is embracing the identity you have built. You are becoming someone who acts despite difficulty, someone who follows through, someone who continues moving forward. Another helpful mindset is focusing on the next step, the next action, the next promise, step by step. Another important truth is that discipline is not about forcing yourself forever. Eventually, your habits support you. Your routines guide you. Action becomes natural. The person who once struggled to start becomes someone who simply begins, not because every day feels easy, but because discipline has become part of who you are. And once discipline becomes part of your identity, your actions follow naturally, no matter how you feel.